So in the female reproductive system, there are some changes that happen, and they repeat after every 28 to 30 days, and therefore it's called a cycle because it repeats, right?
Yes.
And it's called as the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle is controlled entirely by 4 hormones, and their names are shown in these circles. The four hormones are follicle stimulating hormone or FSH, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, and progesterone. Let's pronounce their names together. Follicle stimulating hormone, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, progesterone. Again, follicle stimulating hormone, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, progesterone. 4 hormones are playing a role in the entire menstrual cycle, and we want to see what role each of them plays here. So we'll start with first the follicle stimulating hormone. What it does is, there is a follicle is a sac in the ovary. It starts to develop under the effect of follicle stimulating hormone. So this is a follicle, and there is a oocyte inside the follicle. Where is this? In the ovary. The follicle will start to develop under the effect of follicle stimulating hormone. And the meaning of the word stimulate is to make something active. So the name of FSH itself suggests, right, that it is making the follicle active, right? The name of FSH itself is suggesting that it is making the follicle active. Clear? So FSH is responsible for the development of the follicle. Right? So you see the follicle being developed over here, and there is a oocyte inside it. Clear? Once the follicle develops a little bit, the follicle itself starts secreting a hormone called as estrogen. The follicle itself starts secreting estrogen. Who was secreting the follicle stimulating hormone? It was the pituitary gland that was secreting. The pituitary gland is at the base of the brain. Brain के base पे रहता है pituitary gland. तो वो क्या secrete कर रहा है? कौन सा hormone secrete कर रहा है? Follicle stimulating hormone. तो वो pituitary gland से आ रहा है. Estrogen कहाँ से आ रहा है? Follicle से आ रहा है. जैसे जैसे follicle is developing, it will start secreting estrogen. Yeah? How is estrogen helping? जो endometrium है, that is the lining of the uterus, it's going to start developing under the effect of estrogen. तो estrogen क्या काम कर रहा है? Endometrium को develop करने का. समझ में आ रहा? Follicle stimulating hormone क्या काम किया? Follicle को develop करने का. एस्ट्रोजन का काम किया? एंडोमेट्रियम को डेवलप करने का. तो एंडोमेट्रियम यहाँ पे डेवलप होना स्टार्ट होता है, रीजनरेट होना स्टार्ट होता है. ठीक है? What was the role of follicle stimulating hormone? To develop the follicle. Once the follicle developed, the estrogen was secreted by the follicle. And how is the estrogen helping? It is developing the endometrium lining of the uterus. Clear?
Yes.
Who was secreting the follicle stimulating hormone? The pituitary gland. Who is secreting estrogen? The follicle. Clear? Now the follicle has completed its development. Here you can see the follicle has completed its development.
Yes.
Right. So until here, this process from follicle to its complete development was controlled by FSH. Okay. Follicle to its complete development, the process was controlled by FSH. Is that clear?
Yes.
Now let's go further. There is another hormone that the pituitary gland secretes, and it's called as the luteinizing hormone or LH. Now the job of FSH is done. Now, the luteinizing hormone LH is secreted by the pituitary gland. Under its effect, the follicle will burst. Yeah, can you see the follicle bursting?
Yes.
Because it wants to release the oocyte inside it. So the oocyte being released is called as ovulation. This process of the follicle that has completely developed, that follicle bursting and oocyte getting released, this process is called as ovulation. The follicle bursts under the effect of luteinizing hormone, that is LH, and the oocyte gets released. Clear?
Yes.
So this is the oocyte that has got released. Now, this is the oocyte and this is the remaining part of the follicle, right? That has burst. Right? This is the oocyte, this is the remaining part of the follicle. The remaining part of the follicle transforms into something called as corpus luteum. Okay, let's pronounce corpus luteum. Corpus luteum. Right? So the remaining tissue of the burst follicle becomes corpus luteum. This is corpus luteum. Clear? Now the corpus luteum is going to secrete another hormone called as progesterone. The corpus luteum is now secreting progesterone. By the time, because of estrogen, the endometrium has already developed. The lining endometrium has already developed from year to year. Yeah? These are days passing, right? This is days passing. Do you understand?
Yes.
So endometrium has developed till here. So now progesterone is going to make it further ready. So progesterone is going to help the endometrial glands secrete their secretions. एंडोमेट्रियम का डेवलपमेंट हो गया, इसके बाद प्रोजेस्टेरोन किसको एक्टिवेट कर रहा है? एंडोमेट्रियल ग्लैंड्स को एक्टिवेट कर रहा है. So this corpus luteum is secreting progesterone so that the endometrial glands get activated. Is that clear?
Yes.
Further, this corpus luteum transforms into corpus albicans. Let's pronounce corpus albicans. Corpus albicans. When does it transform into corpus albicans? In case this oocyte that is released does not get fertilized by a sperm within 24 hours. This oocyte that's released, if it doesn't get fertilized, you understand what is fertilization?
Yes.
It doesn't get fertilized by a sperm within 24 hours, then this corpus luteum is going to turn into corpus albicans. When it transforms into corpus albicans, it itself becomes inactive. जो corpus luteum था, वो inactive होता. और वो क्या काम कर रहा था पहले? What was corpus luteum doing before? Before it became inactive, what was it doing? ये सुन रहे हैं. It was secreting progesterone, right? How was it helping? Helping to activate the endometrial glands, right? So if this becomes inactive, will progesterone be secreted anymore? No. And it's also secreting estrogen. This one also keeping on secreting estrogen. So both progesterone and estrogen that this was secreting will now stop once this becomes inactive. Is that clear?
Yes.
And once this stops, the endometrium starts to degenerate. Why does it start to degenerate? Because now there is nobody to support it to develop. Does that make sense? Estrogen was helping it develop, right?
Yes.
And progesterone was helping it secrete chemicals. Now, both of them have stopped secreting because corpus luteum is inactive. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Once corpus luteum becomes inactive, the secretion of estrogen and progesterone stops. Right? And endometrium starts to degenerate. Right? Degenerate मतलब वो अभी generate का opposite, वो बन रहा है, अभी degeneration हो रहा है उसका. जैसे degeneration होगा, the body will throw it out. Along with that, bleeding will happen. That is menstruation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Along with endometrium, what else will be thrown out of the body? The oocyte that was not fertilized. Is that clear?
Yes.
Right? So I'll quickly revise. The entire menstrual cycle happens under the control, or the entire menstrual cycle is controlled by 4 hormones: the follicle stimulating hormone, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, and progesterone. Out of which follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone are secreted by the pituitary gland, which is located at the base of your brain. Is that clear?
Yes.
The follicle stimulating hormone is making the follicle active and its development is happening. Once the follicle is developing, it is itself secreting estrogen. The estrogen is helping in development of the endometrium. Once the follicle completes its development, it requires luteinizing hormone so that it can burst. Once it bursts, a oocyte is released. This is called as ovulation. Once the oocyte is released, the remaining part of the burst follicle transforms into corpus luteum. Clear? The corpus luteum is secreting progesterone. The progesterone is helping the endometrial glands secrete. Right? But if the oocyte is not fertilized within 24 hours, the corpus luteum gets transformed into corpus albicans, and the secretion of estrogen and progesterone stops because corpus luteum is inactive now. So endometrium now will start to degenerate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And this process will again repeat after 28 to 30 days. So after 28 to 30 days, again this whole process has taken 28 to 30 days. After that, we'll go back to this stage. After this, again, the pituitary gland will secrete FSH, it will develop the follicle, and the whole process will repeat again. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The process is ending with menstruation over here. Is that clear?
Yes.
Any questions here?